Welcome to another edition of the Ref Pod. You got me, Wayne Riles, Wayne Baker, freshly shaven this afternoon, Martin Cassidy from Ref Support UK, and I am really excited to introduce you to our new guest this week, who is none other than Troy Townsend. Troy, I think a lot of people will know who you are, but I think the introduction should be over to you, mate, rather than me. And you can tell us a little bit about yourself. No.
Over to me. Wow. Where do I start? Oh, right. Okay. I didn't expect this, by the way. So you've caught me on the hop, but not many people do catch me on the hop. So Troy Townsend, I suppose I should start with my title and the organisation I work for. So I work for Kick It Out, Football's Equality and Inclusion Campaign, who are recognising 30 years. 30 years on Saturday it was. So when you think about, I can't use the term celebrate because what is there to celebrate about it being in this industry and trying to change the narrative that has existed for so long around racism and discrimination? So I say recognize because for me, it kind of, there has to be a recognition of the 30 years, you know, what we've tried to do, what we've tried to achieve, but also the fact that we're so much stuck in the mud because there's so much more to do. My title is Head of Player Engagement. To be fair, I've worked for the organisation for 12 years now. As you can tell, I'm not freshly shaven because I can't be. It's just a tiring day. But that title, to be fair, I've had about 10 titles in 12 years, so I'd pay no notice to the title, but I actually work closely with players in many different formats. So deliver education into football clubs, but predominantly the academy environment. So to help our young players understand what they're getting into when they get into the top level of the game. I support players who unfortunately have been victimized, you know, on the football pitches, on the professional pitches, on the grassroots pitches, behind the closed doors, all that kind of stuff. I'm a prominent voice. I say prominent voice. I think they're trying to edge me out of one of the doors at the back, but I'm a prominent voice on all things kind of discrimination. But obviously, I'll be honest with you, where I feel that the conversation around racism is diminishing, I kind of stick my head above the water all the time and trying to keep shouting from the rooftops that we are in what I believe is in a really bad space still. And I'll challenge anyone on that. And I've got some data, and I'm not a data-driven guy, but I'm being told that, you know, that this era that we need to work on data. So the data, in my good voice, tells me that I'm still right about racism being the highest form of discrimination that exists in regards to our reports that come in to Kick It Out. So that's the day job. The night job, when I put on the mask and put on the whatever else it is that Batman and Superman wear, is making sure that our sport continues to drive this messaging. I do it through various formats, through my own podcasting. Of podcasts that we develop and grow and kind of continue to. I've done an audio documentary on the academy system. This is where it all begins. This is where, you know, you either excel or you talk pretty horribly about your experiences, speaking to parents, speaking to players, speaking to ex-players, speaking to players that have had some of the pretty most horrendous experiences that have existed, to be honest. And I would never believe that football could open people up to those kind of experiences that they've had. And I did it because another young man lost his life because of the beautiful game, or took his own life because of the beautiful game, because, you know, he was at a club that was thriving and that he saw young players become superstars and he wanted to be a superstar, and unfortunately he was released. And I'm not blaming the club at all, that's why I won't say it, but there's something about this game that takes players to the extreme. And it has a massive impact. I'm a father of a player as well, so that's where a lot of my knowledge of the industry comes from, through driving myself through, you know, taking him on the journey, and that might come up a little bit later on. I do have a bit of spare time, and I leave the spare time for the grandchildren and that, but they're not ready to be exposed to the beautiful game yet, so we'll leave them where they are. But I'm in a particular period of time where I'm celebrating everyone's birthday at the moment. August is a particular month.
Expensive.
Very expensive month. Do you know what? And I eke out every bit of my energy in this space. I must say that as well. Every bit of my energy, sometimes to my own detriment, as Martin will know. sometimes to the point where the game, I feel like walking away on a regular basis. And then sometimes where I feel that if I walk away, what would I leave, you know? So I'm invested in this space so much. Unfortunately, I've had some experiences in this space, even while working in it, you know, as a coach and as a young player, you kind of expect it. But when you kind of put a suit on, which I do, and you go into various rooms, let's just call them rooms, I don't expect to see it labeled at me, but I have, and I've witnessed it, and I've challenged it, and certain behaviors have been very funny towards me. So look, I didn't expect to have to say it in that way. I thought I was going to get the big trumpet and then you were going to tell me all about my achievements and everything else. But listen, I fight against the grain all the time, as Mr. Cassidy well knows. And we have become close friends because of that. And I think I will always kind of champion his cause. And I know he will always champion my cause. And listen, we've had one or two little choice moments as well, which I think.
Yeah, we have. Mate, one of the things, I'm glad, I know you're a bit uncomfortable doing what just happened there, but I'm glad you did, because I find you're someone I look up to unbelievably. Yeah, you're infectious. You've said things, you've done things that I use for my cause, and I quote where I got these things from and these sayings.
That's why I get in trouble then, because you're quoting me, yeah?
I go, listen, I'm not saying this, Troy is. But it's. I know you probably feel, and I know you will feel that when we're probably decades away from where you want to be and how to address this. But I feel the game would be nowhere near how it's progressed if it wasn't for you and Kick It Out and all the good people behind it. And I just think no one should even begin to diminish the work you do with your education. And you're really good at teaching by stealth. I've watched you do things that isn't. You can go up to people. If you go up to someone and say, "Right, I'm going to tell you the 7 times table," people switch off. If you go in there going, "I'm going to tell you about the problems in football," people will switch off right or wrongly. But the way you do it is such a professional, very, very intelligent way you're doing it by stealth. And I try to copy that. I try to talk to people about, try to put fun into it as well. It's hard to put fun into what you do, but I think you've changed my narrative, because sharing what you have and saying how things affected you, unbelievable thing that stuck in my head about what happens when the birthday cards for your mum, absolutely tattoos on my head, and I just hope that the people behind there that you represent absolutely honour what you've got and what you do, and that's why I was amazed up you would come on here. Then we got BAME Ref Support now, which has started, wonderful support by the FA and stuff like that, which is again brilliant, because I always felt, even though one of the things they had against the referee associations is that they haven't got any BAME representatives in the referee association. I never liked, and still don't like, that they get lots of gifts off the FA that I believe can be tantamount to push money. But when BAME Ref Support was started, and where it's sat, and how it still challenges, and some of the wonderful, impressive people in there, like yourself, Naj, and all the people that are involved in there, that's going places. That's going to be another game changer. And having you attached to that with those people, it's great to see, mate. And you give me hope that, in 30 years' time, Ref Support will still be there. Ref Support will still be making noises. Ref Support will be smashing windows, so doors will open. And I think football shouldn't acknowledge that like it should. It should acknowledge what you do and what you do, and how you do it, mate. And particularly having the easy stones that can get thrown at you. What about your boy being in a game, and it's an easy target, and it could be a weakness for you. How you handle that, how Andros handles it. It's such an impressive piece, I really in awe of his both, to be honest. I really am. I was gutted he went to Everton. He could have stopped that, Troy. Could have stopped that. But what I want Waz to say, I want Waz to tell Troy about your club and the makeup of your club and how you sit in this arena.
Well, I mean, I don't know how to put it really. Basically, I made a statement before he came on, and I basically said that in terms of where I'm at in Doncaster, where we run our football club, I know for a fact we are the most diverse club in Doncaster by an absolute country mile, and by some distance. I also know players that I've got that have been turned away, not officially, but there's no other reason for it other than the colour of the skin. So when I decided, or me and my wife decided to set this club up, I don't actually think we had an ethos or a policy to say that we was going to make sure it was multicultural, but it was because it's not our mindset. I think the mindset was that it was to be open for everybody. So there was never going to be any discrimination of any kind, of girls, boys, you know, what color skin you are, what god you follow, what meat you eat, what don't matter what language you speak. Football is one language, and we set this club up because we said that we always believed that football was more than just a game. Everybody focuses on the game of football, and they'll all say, "Oh, it's just a game of football on a Sunday." And if you do it right and you do it properly, it's not just a game of football on a Sunday. You know, there's so much more to it. You actually strengthen a community. You build bridges opposed to islands, or you build bridges to the islands, if you like, and you get to meet so many different people. We have people from everywhere. We have people that are refugees. We have people that have been born here, but the parents came in other, you know, migrant cases, and you know, a lot have been born here, a lot haven't. And we've took it upon ourselves to literally make. I mean, I am as a person. I'm very open, very warm, very. I like to know everybody, meet everybody with a smile, and I believe at my club in Doncaster that we've got something really special going off, and we've tapped in. I say tapped in. I can't think of a better word really than tapped in. We've had people come from various backgrounds, made them feel extremely welcome, took the kids on board. They've then gone back and told their friends, who kids are also wanting to get into teams, who've told their friends, who've told their friends. And before you know it, we have a club that is just absolutely blooming with colour and diversity. And we did a thing about a year ago. We had in the summer, we did like a bit of a, I can't think of what to call it really. Just a bit of a day. Everybody get together. Bring all your own food. We'll get loads of games out with kids. All parents come, bring the siblings along. And we had people from all over cooking all different types of food. So you could all try this different types of food. Everybody laughing, everybody joking, everybody mixing, everybody mingling, playing different sports and just having the time of life. And it's, you know, I look at my team now, and I've got players from Nigeria, from Kurdistan, from India, and I mean, some of the, you know, forget everything else at this point. Some of them are absolutely exceptional footballers, exceptional talents that should have been given, or should have been just a normal given right to be able to go and express that and learn the game of football without any pullbacks, without anybody dragging them down. And we've created this culture within my club where everybody knows it and knows that they're welcome. And it's no coincidence to me that every team, more or less, in the club, we've got 10 now, are doing well. And they're all diverse. And they're all from people of different backgrounds and colour. And it is, we always said that Sandal Beat, what we made, was going to be one massive footballing family. And I'm only 2 years into a journey with it. But I'm already succeeding in what we do. And so to think that it still goes on, you know, to think that, I can't think of a better word than knuckle draggers, but to think that this ideology, I tell you what, I make a really good point to you. My lads won the league last year, and I said to them, make it really special for this summer. We'll raise loads of money. We'll do different stuff. So I asked the kids, what do you want to do? And one of the days we took them to the coast, and we gave them all a little bit of spending money to have. And they wanted to do go-karting, and we did all that. And we had an incident. I say an incident. It wasn't an incident, really. It wasn't out of any kind of malice, and it wasn't out of any racism. But I normally give them bibs, you know, to separate the teams. And because I'm so diverse, it literally is 50-50. And they're basically separating themselves by colour. And somebody came and told me, and I went, whoa, I can't have that. Because that's where it starts, isn't it? And I basically pulled them all to one side, and I gave them a massive talking to. And I honestly, if you ever got to know me, you know that I'm pretty passionate about everything that I'm involved in. And I gave him a massive speech. Said, look, I know it's not come from a bad place. I know you've just done it just to separate so you can have teams. I said, but that's how it starts. And I'm not sure how political I can go, but I'll go as much as what I think I can. And I said, these idiots that are in charge of this country at the minute are trying to turn everybody against each other to make you think that your enemy is somebody who speaks a different language or is a different colour or doesn't eat the same food as what you eat. When actually, what we really need, not just in this country, but in this world, when we all start to smarten up and realise that people of different colour, of different languages, of different backgrounds, of different beliefs are not your enemy. Your enemy are the people that are running this country, the people that are dividing you, the people that are taking all the money off you, the people that are pouring sewage into your seas and your rivers, the people that are turning you against desperate people crossing a channel in a boat and dying. They're telling you it's their fault that we've got no money. Their fault the NHS is on its arse. No, it's not. The very people are those people. And the sooner we really passionate about this, the sooner we realise as a nation, as a world, that we need to do better than governments. We need to do better than these people that are in charge. Because people from different countries, they're not your enemy. The people that are their enemy are the ones sitting at top and they want you all to hate each other. And until we realise that and stop it and start to join hands as a one and turn on them, it's going to be a long, long road. And that's how I feel.
Do you mind if I interject?
No.
Well, I'm not interjecting because you
Please do.
Yeah.
Sorry, I get passionate about it.
No, I don't listen to party political broadcasts. But there's a reason why I don't listen to them, because I think it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm standing in line to listen to some more of what you've just said, Wes, because it just makes sense. Now, your footballing journey with your club now mirrors what I started with my own club. God, I'm afraid to say how many years ago, because you start wondering about my age. But when you start, football is the common denominator, isn't it? You pick up the ball and everyone knows what you've got to do with it. They don't put it in their hands. They don't throw it at each other. They put it down at the feet and they go and play. They go and express themselves. It's such a beautiful game that has been complicated by the rule makers, those that think they know it better, that have never probably hit a ball, struck a ball properly ever. So that ball connected me to young English lads, young Jamaican lads, young Caribbean, whatever, young Asian lads, young Mediterranean lads, young Greek lads, and their parents. So I'm at the other end of the scale now, where my players, ex-players, are now brother-in-laws or, godparents or, just part of the family that goes on holiday, or they are still a complete nightmare. Like, I was at Tottenham the other day and one of them is talking at the top of his voice. And I said to him, can you shut up for a minute? But actually, this young man, who was an absolute top player, but equally a nightmare, you couldn't control him. I wanted to bring him into the club and all my parents said, no, we don't want him here. Actually, they embraced him. He's a beautiful soul. He now runs a business where he employs 4 of my ex-players. His business is thriving. He's also a person who doesn't share his emotion too much, but in a message to me after we finished, it's about the dad that he never had, and the connection that I had with him and his mum and his grandparents. His grandparents were amazing, by the way. We lost his granddad. It was a really emotional moment, so if you do things properly, organically, you will grow as a community. You don't have to go. I had to do with a situation back end of last week, which I can't say too much about, where a coach who's an ex-pro footballer said, we need to get more white players in this team. Like,
why?
Because he felt he had too much. Hold on, but who got the black players in, by the way? He's the manager. Who got the black players in? But no, we need to get more white players in this team so we can run. And it's like what you said there, Wes, about this is where the rivalry comes from, because you start talking that language, it becomes common. Once it becomes common, it comes imprinted in some of their heads, and if it comes imprinted in their heads, they then see the opposite, as they say, as the enemy. So as adults, as human beings, as the senior human beings, I'll put myself in that bracket. We have the responsibility to school the young people in our care, right? Because our educational system, I'm going to say this out loud, having been in it for 15 years, is a pile of crap. So actually, when they come to, our football centres, our clubs, and this is where they learn the most about togetherness, about growing together, about understanding. I chuckled at when you said, we got all our parents to, we had a sports day. That's what I used to do. We had sports days. Forget football. We're not playing football today.
Yeah.
We play football we're having and get your parents to bring some food, please, because I'm starving. Parents jump in on it, and they want to do it because you've created such a feel of family that's what they want to invest in. So yes, the football is the common denominator, but when you finish the football, you actually create so much more. And these boys who they were boys who are now men, are part of my extended family. They will ring me up. They will, I don't want to hear too much from them because I'm a little bit older now, but they know where I am if they ever need me, and unfortunately, look, we lost the secretary of the club at the time, who was the mother of one of my players. We lost her a few weeks ago, and the only beautiful thing, because she's young and she's just had grandchildren, which she really wanted, and she only spent 3 years with them. But the beautiful thing is that everyone was there. Everyone. And Martin knows my story a little bit more than both you guys, but I find it hard to celebrate somebody's life, when they're having lost a child at such a young age. But you find yourself celebrating because you're around those people that actually brought her out of her comfort zone and made her family part of our family. And so in the end, you had to, yes, it was a little bit morbid to start with, and you have your period of that, but it was actually such a beautiful afternoon, and yeah, it's the thing that drives us on it, the thing that keeps us going. And, we become parents to all, don't we? I think that's a real beautiful thing. So what a great way to start.
It was brilliant, wasn't it? And I think I see football as a starting gun for the journey rather than the finishing line. And I think it's the same with refereeing. I've got friends, really close friends, moral compasses, who keep me as a delinquent child, a teenage dad, just out of my teenage years, divorced with kids. Everything that's going to go wrong in your life was the arrow pointing at me. But not having these people I've met through football and refereeing, who are my moral compasses, and say, come on, that isn't the right road. That's all through football. All through football. If anything, the people outside football are the ones that take me on the road that I didn't want to really be on anymore, which is why I live in Somerset now, not Liverpool. And I think that's all come from football. And I think hearing like what you did then, Wayne, I thought that was beautiful listening to you. I know it can be a bit political. People are probably thinking, oh my God,
Oh, I'm there. I've got the T-shirt. I'm there. Yeah.
The thing is, he's right, which is really unusual for Wayne, but in this particular instance, he's right.
And having your boy attached, Wayne, is a good story, I think.
Say again, Martin. Sorry, I missed that.
Having your boy attached.
Yeah. So,
now he's refereeing.
My boy qualified as a ref only like a month or so ago. He's 14 years old.
Amazing.
Already earning his pocket money, really enjoying it. He refed a game. Wayne were witnessing it yesterday. Wayne said he's doing really well, which is fantastic. But he was part of an incident a little while ago that really, really upset him. Actually, upset a lot of us. We were playing a game. I'll try and paint a bit of a picture, and I don't want to cast any aspersions, but it was in a very low wealth mining village, ex-mining village. And we had a particular kid, a Jamaican kid, brilliant little player, always on, never on the bench, asked us to come off, which we thought was really, really odd for him. We was like, well, what do you want to come off for? He's like, oh, I can't be bothered. I can't be bothered. So we brought him off for a bit. You could see we were kind of itching to get back on again. And so we're like, go on, get back on. He got back on, and within a few minutes, he suddenly, which is totally out of character, turned and lashed out at this opposition player, dragged him to the floor and started belting him. We were like, whoa, what the hell? We started running on to separate it. Parents from the opposition team started running on, and the language that we heard. I mean, I'm going to say it, right? this woman coming, get off him, you fucking packy. You're like, I mean, she'd even got his race wrong for a start.
Mm.
But he was crying his eyes out while he's cracking this kid, and we managed to drag him off. He's calling me the N-word. He's calling me the N-word. I'm like, you're 11 years old. You know, why should you be listening to that? My son come running over. I heard that, Dad. I heard that. Why was he calling him that word? Why was he calling him that? We abandoned the game. Now, I was driving him, my son, and a friend home. The three of them are crying in the back of the car, right? Because, well, no kid should hear that, ever. And then I got him home, and having to try and tell his mum this broke me. Absolutely broke me, because I'd never been witness to such venom of this kind of, well, of this racism before. We contacted the club. At the time, the club that we were part of, they were a bit slack, to be fair. We contacted the FA ourselves. We contacted the club. Very, very little seemed to be getting done. We contacted the police. The police started making investigations and doing what little that they could. But the club in question actually put a statement on their website saying, we have been found not guilty, right? What the police had said was, we can't find enough evidence to prove it fact. Now, we'd all heard it. We'd all seen it. So then we contacted the FA again and said, what are you doing about this? And they said, there's very little that we can do. You know, we'll write them a letter. It then went onto social media, and all of a sudden things started to change. I mean, the mother of the child, she actually became a committee member to look after our like racism side of things and be our representation for a while. But once it started hitting social media and the club started getting tarred, suddenly things changed. And the club then released a statement saying, we're going to do training, you know, we hold our hands up. And it just felt like there's no bite. You know, those at the top, for us at the bottom, it's nothing. You know, we're a tiny grassroots club. What do we matter?
Wayne, you may have seen me smiling a bit there, and I'm not smiling because of the situation. I'm smiling because if I've heard that story once, I've heard it a million times. The age is no barrier, by the way. I've heard it from younger. And I've also witnessed the parents in the way that you've described as well. This is why, unless you hold people, it's almost you have to do your own work here in this space. Because if you don't do it, like you've just said, nobody
will.
You know, that not enough evidence stuff gripes me massively, massively. I can only say to you now, I always apologize. I've got nothing to do with the incident, but I always apologize because no one, the child, the parent, the teammates, the club, no one should have to experience or witness things like that. You know, no one. So I always apologize, and I don't apologize on my behalf. I apologize on the game's behalf. And then you have to go through the bit where it's almost like you're victimized again because the process is so poor.
Yeah.
Martin knows I say this all the time. Grassroots is like the wild, wild west. Okay, there's no sheriff. Sheriff shits himself. Am I allowed to say shits himself?
Sure,
You can't say shit on here. Can you say shit on here, Wayne?
You can definitely say shit. Yeah,
you can say shit. All right. So I can say shit. So I've said shit once and I've said it about 4 times since. But the sheriff wants no part in it. Do you know what I mean? Because the natives, the cowboys and the Indians and they're too fiery. So the sheriff steps back and says, I can't deal with this. This is what it happens in our game. You have an open line to me if ever an incident like that happens again. The biggest thing for me is a support system. You had a 11-year-old boy, is that right?
Yeah, 11 years old.
Who decided that he didn't want to play the game that he loves because of the abuse that he was receiving. And he needed to take some time out to get his head straight. So I'm picturing this scenario now where he gets his head straight, he wants to get back on, and then he's immediately hit by the same language that he'd come off for. Now he can't control his anger, because he tried to control his anger by coming off, and he's done the right thing. Now he can't control his anger, and this is where, and I'll be honest with you, if that stuff didn't go on, did your lad get charged as well?
No. My lad was with him.
No, sorry,
my lad got really upset
the player
because
that
he
hit out.
heard it. Yeah.
The player that hit out, your player that was racially abused.
Oh
did he
yeah,
get
no, he
charged?
didn't get charged. No.
Well, that's surprising because they normally charge them as well.
Yeah, the parents of the kid that was actually racially abusing him tried.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. And now think of that as a double whammy. You know, the reason he's lost his head is because no one has dealt with the situation.
Yeah.
I now can't take it. 11 years of age, by the way. I can't take it no more. The only thing I can do to shut this person up who's calling me the N-word or monkey or whatever it is to punch him.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to take my aggression. That's like the school playground, isn't it? It's like being in the school playground.
I think it's interesting to add as well. This player no longer plays football.
He's quit.
Who?
The player. And we don't. I don't know. It's never actually been said that this was the reason why he quit. But
I certainly think it was a big effect on him.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. We're happy to lose young people who have activity, you know, who have structure, who have development as part of their growing up.
Mm-hmm.
We're happy to lose them from the game because we can't deal with the abuse that's been leveled at them. And I'll stand up in front of anybody and say the problem is not with the youngster. The problem is the people that administer the rules and the sanctions and the actions against. What did the parent get charged? You know, all of this, you're allowing that language to be an acceptable norm. And I always say, well, what are they like on a normal day then?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
you see, the crazy thing is the coaches of the actual opposition, they came over and apologized and said that shouldn't have happened. But then once, obviously, the situation had cooled down, we'd gone home, they suddenly were like, oh, we never heard anything. We don't know anything about it. You know,
they don't want to mark against their own football club.
No, exactly.
And the power of social, what I'm seeing more and have done for a few years and utilized it in my own situation was the power of social media. I know social media can be a really shit, I'm saying it again, a really shit space at times, you know, and it drives you crazy. But actually in incidents like this, when people get behind you and say, that's not acceptable, it's unbelievable, who are this club, you know, we need to, but the county affairs will say, oh, can you take that down? Can you not do that? Can you not expose clubs in that way? But it's the only way that we seem to be able to have a little bit of peace of mind and get some accountability, because that's what we're after.
Absolutely nailed it on the head there with the social media thing. And I said it earlier about smashing windows out PO Box 1966 so the doors would open. And what's happened is, it always happens in lots of spaces in football. You take it this little smoke-filled snug they used to have in the back of a pub where everything got sorted out and you never heard what happened. Social media just clashed all those rooms down. There's one big room now. And if you ain't playing ball, you go into social media. With Ref Support, we had this exact same thing where people say, oh, you can't do it. There's regulations. This is how naive people were in the beginning. When we started pushing that out about videos on our Twitter account, one particular county FA sent an email to every single registered referee saying you cannot talk to the media without our express permission. I got sent that email, put her up on my Twitter account, said you need to retract this. Covered in Dan Rowan, high-profile journalist, other people like Martin Ziegler, Henry Winter. Do you realise that the FA are telling them, oh my God, I've got retracted? And what happened was they get used to acting like this, Troy, because no one challenges them enough for whatever reason. And they think they can get away with it. And so what they do, they end up making these errors. And what's happened is those errors can now go on social media for everyone else to decide, is that an error or not? Yeah. And that's why I believe the social media space can be poisonous, can be horrible. But I don't think Ref Support would be anywhere where it is as a voice if it wasn't for that social media.
I agree with you. Absolutely agree with you. You know, there's two ways of looking at it. Is that you've always got to shield yourself from the abuse because you'll get it anyway. And I know that you do as a platform. But actually, this is the thing. There are more good people than people that have all that mindset and hatred on their mind. So actually, once you build up a community of good people, they will always be there for you. Absolutely. They'll always amplify your voice. And now you have that connection because you didn't in the early years, did you? But now you've got that connection of your big hitters, your Dan Rowans, your Henry. They've only got to put one tweet out and bam. And you'll get the detractors again, but actually you'll see more of the people that go, can't believe this is the case, X, Y, and Z.
Very true, very true. And what happens is the body cams, how long did I bash on about that, Troy? And then Martin Ziegler put it out because he was at the IFAB saying Ref Support is going to be tagged us in. Now, I've always said it. The whole point of allowing a body cam pilot was to address all forms of abuse, and not just ref abuse. Now, if the referee in that game that happened with what you just said then, Wayne, and it was on a body camera, you got nowhere to go.
Yeah.
You got absolutely nowhere to go. So although the FA, and I've really praised people like Andy Ambler and what they've done, Danny Meeson, with the body cam pilot, with these points deduction, that chased points deduction for ages, when they do come through, what I'm finding with the FA is, as progressive as it is, it's still not enough. With a points deduction, it's like, oh, it's regular perpetrators of abuse. Well,
Yeah,
no,
always little bits of wording, isn't
little
there?
caveats in there. I'm thinking, oh, for fuck's sake, sorry, for God's sake, why?
Right, let me just check see whether you can say that word.
Okay, sorry, that's Troy, he knows all the swear words. And just go in, even do it like.
But there's a fear, Martin. There's a fear that if they go too far, too quick,
really,
like I believe. Now, I wasn't so excited about the points deductions. I've got to be honest. And the reason why I wasn't so excited is because of what you've just said.
okay.
You don't read everything and read that fine line. You're going to think that it's going to apply to everybody and it's massive and it's a game changer. And so my counsel is still out. I'm not sure.
Now, I respect that and understand that, because I was disappointed. We had Andy Ambler on here, and he was absolutely,
I know.
He was absolutely brilliant, and he wants to come back on
He's a
again.
top guy.
He is a top guy, and he said,
top guy.
He said teams above, leagues above, should be looking down, saying that might come up here if it works. And he said, when we do someone for points for abuse of a referee, we're going to shout loud about it. And I'm thinking, whoa, this is great. What I said to him, look, with children, if you're under, we call it proven, but I'm going to say guilty. Someone gets found guilty under FA procedure and processes of being found guilty, proven, of threatening and verbally abusing the child referee. You don't need to do that a couple of times to lose points, mate. That immediately should lose points. And that starts it at the right time, where these people are going, actually, when I grow up, if I behave like that, my team's going to lose points. But it's just diluted a little bit. And the body cam trial as a pilot are getting extended, great, but it's all encrypted. And they're not really turning the body cams on until you feel threatened. It's a little bit, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. And
it's like everything, Martin. It's like, when they started to put 3-step protocols in for racism. So that gives the person, the individual, the group, free opportunities to go and racially abuse on the field of play before there's any action.
Yeah.
It's like the Italians have now gone for zero tolerance approach. So that apparently the act will happen. So if there's anything in the stadium, the act of stopping the game, of potentially, calling the game off, abandoning the game, will happen straight away. Let me see about that when that happens, by the way. It looks good in black and white.
Yeah.
How do they administer it? And it's like everything that we feel that the game, and the game is taking pigeon steps. It's taking small steps, but we're in 2023. And we know that grassroots is wild. We know that the professional game is still having its issues, although no one likes to talk about it that much. And we know that European competitions, I do a lot of work in the academies, and all I'm hearing now is we went to, and it's all around racism. It's all around, and listen, that's my field. I'm not saying that they're not other forms of discrimination, but points that come back to me when our academy players are traveling to all these countries for pre-season. I've worked with a club for 6 nights because of that fact, is the fact that they're being identified based on the color of their skin. Now, for me, there's a welfare issue there. Do our clubs continue to travel? If they know that they're going to an area where actually, or a country where actually there's been a theme, their responsibility is to the player, no? Their responsibility is to any player that may be subjected to that abuse. So unless we can start thinking differently, like we do recce's, clubs do recce's, don't they? Yeah, we'll go over there and we'll make sure it looks good. It looks, it's a safe place to be. It's all right. It's, club, the facilities are great. But how do you do a recce for language and comments and whatever
just
else?
Ticking boxes.
Exactly. So I've said you need to look at, and then you need to divert back to the Premier League and the Football League. Is it safe for us to travel there? And whilst I wouldn't want I wouldn't want to stop anyone having the experience. Do you know what I mean? Because it's a beautiful experience. Football opens up so many doors for these young people, even if they're not going to make it in the game. They travel, they stay in nice places, they experience different lifestyles, foods, culture. It's all part of traveling. It's not just what happens on the field of play. That's a byproduct of being part of a system where you're attached to a professional football club. You're not a professional yet, but you're attached and you're living out that experience. But if my child was to come home with his bag over his back and saying, yeah, they called me a blackness and they called me a monkey, and I'm going to question, why have they taken my child over there? So there is a responsibility of the game to nail that down as well, you know. But look, I huff and puff because no one wants to listen. We've lost the art of listening. No one wants to listen. All right, it's racist, but all right, it's sexist, but all right, it's homophobic, but it's like the game supersedes any experience that any individual has because it's bigger than those experiences. The game needs to grow up. It's as simple as that. The game needs to grow up.
Do you feel in your time as doing it, do you feel that is it better than what it was when you started, or is it just evolving? Is it different?
Listen, we got asked that question last week, and I'm not quite sure we answered it very well. I've joined 12 years ago. I've been as a non-league coach, non-league manager, run my own academy. I've been in the game far too long. I'm even getting grey hairs on my eyebrows now, and that's really affecting me. I'm not happy about that. The abuse is just the same. I was very privileged when I came into this organisation. One of my first gigs was the England under-21s at the time, who had a lot of the players that you all know now in the England setup. I'm standing there with Cyril Regis, who's a hero of mine, by the way. Garth Crooks, another hero of mine. Trevor Brooking over there. You know, Cyril's taking them, the young lad, through his experiences as he's growing up, and you know, the bullet in the post and all that stuff about, you know, if you ever stepped on the Wembley pitch. The Garth is telling them about, you know, the fact that the game has given him so much opportunities, but because of the colour of his skin, he's viewed differently. And it was just a prep for them knowing that the responsibility they have of wearing the three lines. Then we went outside, and before we left, you know, we were waiting for a car, and we're sitting down, and I'm listening to these two talk about their experiences of becoming professional footballers and living life and all this, that, and the other. And I said, Troy, this is not your conversation. You know, just listen, Troy, just listen. And it was an amazing thing. But then they're telling me, obviously, we got onto the point of the abuse that they received. And both of them said all we could do is continue to try and be the best player that we could be on the field of play. I get that. Now our players are saying, no, we're taking ownership of that now. We're not allowing people to target us, and we'll deliver our messages. Then let's go back to now abuse can come now in all different formats, because now social media is the growing one, isn't it? That's where I was going to use another term, but I'm not. I don't want to lower the tone here, but that's where people can hide, can scour behind, can go, do you know what? I can send that and no one will know who I am. So that's the new form of abuse.
Yes.
The abuse is really the same, though. Do I hear stories of players still being called monkeys? Yes, I do. Do I hear stories of players still, you know, the N word being used at them? Yes, I do. Sometimes these are home fans that are talking about their own players. I still hear that. I still hear that.
Wait, is it, sorry, Troy, is that in the professional game?
In the professional game.
Wow.
I'm lucky and very fortunate to jump on a call every week with the UKFPU, the policing unit. And we'll sit down and we'll go, look, these are reports we've had in today. These are reports we've had in. Yes, you know, racial abuse at Club X versus Club Y, N-word used at home player, you know, Club A versus Club B, Premier League, comment used at, you know, even to people that are working, stewards and those working behind the counters and stuff like that. And I'm saying no one knows this. So people actually think that it's gone. It doesn't exist. But because of our conversations, I know it. So when I talk confidently because I have the information behind it. And it does exist. It still exists right across the leagues. The lower down the levels, it becomes more prominent. It becomes more more people can hear it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Premier League have the sophisticated cameras and whatever else. But so in answer to your question, no, it's exactly the same with the new form of I'll call it by its original name that it's called now, X, or Instagram or Meta as they own it. Those platforms almost seem designed to allow the abuse to flourish without much accountability.
So
You catch one, you miss 100.
yeah. So where we are, sorry mate, sorry to cut you off there. And where we are now, you know, you've obviously experienced more than what we could ever even dream of, I imagine, or have a nightmare of.
Yeah.
Where is it going wrong? What more can be done? How can it be done differently? I see my own belief is, and obviously I've never experienced racism, you know, because of my colour skin. I've never experienced it. So it's something that I can only imagine how it must feel, how it must make kids feel. I won't go into my story. It's not quite as bad as what Wayne's was. But when you said younger, I had a player that was, I think we were under nines at the time, and we went away to a ground, and but he didn't tell us after the game. And I said to him, if you'd have told me that during the game, I'd have pulled us off and I'd have just gone home, and I'd have took whatever charge league or FA want to throw at me, because it's about making a stand to say you don't deserve to have a game of football finished if you're going to carry off like this. So I would have pulled them gone. So what? From where you sit, if you had a wand and you could, I know if you had a wand, we could change, make everybody get rid of all idiots, maybe, or you change the mindset.
If I had a wand, I wouldn't be on this podcast tonight. I'd be well away. Yeah?
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'd have my feet out, sanding it and everything. Yeah.
But where is it going wrong? What can be done differently? How does it change? Where does it start? What does it look like? Because I think there's loads of people talk about stuff, and I agree with you. There's every time it happens, there's these social media messages, but then you give it a couple of weeks and it comes back again. How do you get to the bottom of it? How do you root it out, root and branch? How do you get it out of there?
I would only answer this question because we're sitting here on this pod. Because normally I'd go, well, why don't you tell me?
Yeah.
Why don't you tell me? You're the ones in charge. You're the ones who can provide the longest and most severe sanctions. Make sure you provide education in that as well, because, you know, people should have the opportunity to almost go, I did wrong. I've learnt my lesson. Can I come back? I believe that, unless it's a really extreme case. We talk a lot about no room for racism, but actually there's quite a lot of room for racism. So let's stop the hashtags for a start, yeah? What about zero tolerance? Do we actually mean it, or are we throwing it out there as a term that everyone else knows, but actually we're not applying? So for me, there has to be an approach of, no matter what the standard of abuse, that someone is brought to counsel, brought up about it. You know, we need to stop this balance of probability. We don't know one individual, we don't know the other, but we're actually using balance of probability. That's the words and language that is used. Well, how are you balancing probability when one says I didn't, one says it did happen?
Yeah.
So basically what you're doing is you're leaning on the side of the person that, you know, was accused and telling the victim, prove it. That's not right. Like, prove that you were racially abused. Prove that that comment was made against you. In this day and age, if it's me, I'd say, no, thanks. It's all right. I know what happened. I'm going to have to deal with it with no support from the footballing industry. So we need to, like I said, let's use that points deduction. We need to start hitting people where it hurts. And if it hurts, and up the ladder, I say hitting them where it hurts and financially, and stop having these kind of fining systems which UEFA and FIFA use that actually are just a slap on the wrist. But at least they go further than what we do in this country. Partial stadium closures. We've had that in Italy. We don't have it in this country because we don't talk about the abuse. So if we're not talking about the abuse, you know, we have mass chanting in this country, you know, so all those clubs that chant all these different chants that are derogatory, we don't deal with them because apparently mass chanting, we can't deal with it. So let's clean the slate. Let's start again. If there are fans chanting Rent Boy, and we know what section it comes from, and with our cameras now that can point you out. Yeah. See the camera. Someone told me the other day, and maybe they regret it now. This person was going to Wembley Stadium from Manchester. They've tracked the person from Manchester to entry to seat at Wembley. Tracked them. That's what they can do now with these systems. So if you can do that, no one should ever leave the stadium who has, let's say, thrown out some language and feel confident and comfortable about going home that night.
Yeah.
But we also have situations where, do you remember the Man United abuse from a few years back? When there was a fan on the touchline who was making some gestures and the Man United fans pointed him out.
I remember this.
What happened with it?
Nothing.
Well, we don't know, do we? So we're not good at talking about, because apparently the gentleman, I'm calling him a gentleman, by the way, apparently he was arrested. But what happened? Troy Deeney last season, racially abused by a Birmingham City fan. I don't know what happened. I don't know the consequence, the outcome. So I pick up the phone, ring Troy and say, Troy, what happened in that case?
So maybe the highlighting the punishment that does maybe get handed out and let it as a deterrent kind of thing. As
a deterrent. Sometimes these things are not a deterrent because one fan will always say, well, it's not going to happen to me. I'm cleverer than that one. Do you know what I mean? But we've got to show force. We've got to show that actually, if you walk into a stadium and you're hell-bent on using language that is not acceptable, there will be a consequence for you. And I'm not putting pressure on stewards because I think they've got an unbelievably difficult job. I'm putting pressure on the fact that you've got your camera system and you can track people wherever they go. But let me say this, the fight against racism, and I know they won't like me saying it, was pushed back when we didn't identify, and I'm going back to 2018, a banana landed on a Premier League pitch and we did not call it racism. All of a sudden, that banana was a missile. You land that banana in front of me, I know what you're calling me. And by the way, this person that threw the banana, I know him. It came out in the end. Troy, you know? I said, I don't know anyone that would throw a banana. I used to play with the lad.
Wow.
Top lad, as I thought. Willing to throw a banana on the field of play at a black player. But every single newspaper that reports, so I don't know who was in cahoots with who, but every single newspaper that reported that incident, if you try and Google it now, you will not see the word racism in there. So what they're saying is the act of throwing a banana, if we go back to 1988 and John Barnes, at least we knew what it was then.
Yeah.
It's an act of racism. We didn't catch the fella.
Yeah.
But it's an act of racism. But in 2018, 30 years later, you're now making excuses for racism.
So in essence, it's been, racism is reducing because it's been disguised as something else.
Maybe I should have said it that way, Wayne. That way,
yeah, maybe you should.
You know,
that way I won't get in trouble.
I was going to ask you about. It is quite a controversial topic for a lot of people, and it has mixed reviews. And I get the answer to it now without asking you, but I'm going to ask you anyway. We was debating before we came on about the taking the knee.
I knew you was going to say that.
Yeah, and just because it's quite a hot topic, and there's quite a lot of people in the media that don't agree with it. There's some that do. I've got to be honest. This whole amount, not because I think the racism's gone away. I was shocked when they said that they was going to carry on doing it. Not shocked, but I didn't think that. I thought it maybe come to an end. But after speaking to you, and you obviously telling us that how it is being disguised now, how it's still there, but it's not being pushed at the front, which is what you're trying to do all the time. That's the reason why the players want to keep doing it, because it's not going away.
Let's put this into context. The taking of the knee is only done 6 times a season now. So it's losing its value anyway. It started last year. It's losing its value. Start of the season, during the No Room for Racism campaign, Boxing Day. No room for racism again, so maybe 5 times, last game of the season. So the booing that happened at Burnley, and I don't know if it happened at any other ground on Friday night, will not happen again until No Room for Racism in November. We've bottled it. We've bottled it. Everyone said, look, the taking of the knee, it's a player initiative. Yeah. So anyone that wants to connect it with Black Lives Matter and what happens in America and, you know, the initiative that is run there, the function of the police and whatever else, then maybe you need to do your homework, because this is what the players said. They wanted the taking of the knee because actually, yes, it was after the murder of George Floyd, but actually it was in support of American sports stars and then reflecting on what happens in our own country with the fact that we never deal with racism properly. So the players took the knee. There'll be some for it and there'll be some against it. We all know Wilf Zaha started taking the knee and then stopped. He stopped because every single match day weekend, he was still getting monkey emojis and his family being told to die. So he said, well, no, I'm going to stand and I'm going to be proud and I'm going to challenge these people in my way. Okay. Ivan Toney, the same thing, the most racially abused player in the championship at that time, and then coming up to the Premier League. So the players are taking it because they still feel that our game, the English game, forget anything else that anyone, remember, you can have the same name and be different. Yeah. So, you know, in support of Black Lives Matter is not in support of what's happening out there or the organization that's created a split in the kind of narrative that it has. It's about challenging the authorities to do better. Then the authorities get involved a little bit with the players and say, well, you don't really want to do it all the time, do you? And now England took the knee more times in the World Cup than what the other players did last season. So for me, when it started, and I know it started in closed stadiums, I'm telling you now, it's the most powerful initiative, bar none, bar all the hashtags that we've had, most powerful thing that was happening. Yeah, and that's, you can kick it out in there, you can put a Premier League in there, it was the most powerful, significant thing because it run by the players. And I get a little bit emotional because my support is for the players, the victims, and the support systems around them. So for me, I'm like, yeah, I can feel that taking off the knee.
I think you put that really so well for us. For a while, I started to consider it as a bit of virtue signalling, you know.
I get it, Wayne.
But the way you've put that, it kind of hits home. No, these players are actually standing up for the mates, and they're seeing it, and they're showing everybody we still see it.
Do you remember the plane that flew over Turf Moor? I think when they were playing Man City again.
Yeah.
Remember the plane? And Ben Mee came out, and Ben Mee spoke amazingly about why the players take the knee. And you know what? He wasn't black. He wasn't mixed heritage. He wasn't he's an English white captain. And he came out and he nailed it. And I actually thought at that time, that's when we might see more change.
Yeah.
That's when people might go, do you know what? Get it now. You know, we've got a really established like English player who has said the reason why, as a squad, they want to take the knee, and how that was belittled by that plane flying over Turf Moor. It wasn't helped. Let me get back on this government rant. It wasn't helped, obviously, when during our Euros, Boris and his mates started to say, this is all crap. But when England got to the latter stages and the semi-final and the final, Boris is putting on his England top, wearing it proud, but didn't want to support the players during the course of them trying to get there. So glory hunting is something that we'd mention here. I don't even want to mention the other people from the government who decided that they wanted to be at Wembley because all of a sudden they like football. Do you know what I mean? So they were very distant from the knee at the time, and it's right to boo. I mean, why would you say that? Yeah, it's right to boo. So
yeah, I hate that whole argument saying they paid the money, they can do what they want kind of stuff.
I had an argument yesterday. Do you remember LinkedIn is a professional platform, isn't it?
Yeah.
For some reason, someone on my Sunday decided to tag me into a post where you must have heard Neil Mopay got abused. Well, not abused. They told his mum, "Hi, hope your mum's in a grave." Right? I mean, why would you do that?
Yeah.
And someone tagged me into a post to argue a point from someone who said it's everyone's right. So freedom of speech. It's everyone's right. And my thing, and you know, if footballers don't like it, they should go and work in Sainsbury's and Tesco. I mean, what in comparison is that?
Yeah.
They've got a privileged life. So their privileged lives open them up to be abused.
Yeah.
Their privileged life, and if they can't take it, means they should go and work in a lower paid job.
Yeah.
So I made my points and then switched off my LinkedIn because I'm not there to argue on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
During the point of no room for racism, sorry, I'll start again. During the point of Black Lives Matter, I received more racism on LinkedIn than what I had on any other platform. More racism
on LinkedIn.
On LinkedIn,
Wow.
the professional user platform.
Incredible.
Do you know
for me to get more abuse on LinkedIn than Twitter, you got to go some.
I mean, that's mental, isn't it? That is absolutely. I mean, I would never have said that. I would never even.
I'm telling you, Wayne.
Because when I like going through my uni, they always said to you, make sure you've got a LinkedIn profile because obviously that's where you connect with people to get work and blah 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 blah. So to think that you got it on LinkedIn,
Wayne, head of security, teacher at blah blah blah, wherever else, sporting, whatever, racial abuse on LinkedIn.
Wow. So,
and I'm sure I posted it on my Twitter to say I thought this platform was worse, but at the moment I'm gonna head back over there because they're killing me over there. You know what I mean?
You see, your political stance sounds very similar to mine. I am that passionate against these bastards that are in at minute that I bought 2 t-shirts for my birthday saying "fuck the Tories" on, and I wear them quite proudly when I'm walking around wherever I am because I do feel passionately about what they've done to this country. We speak about, we seem to be, even though a lot of people think that it's a lot better now than what it was, it's probably evolved, it's changed, it's coming from different angles. Social media didn't exist maybe 15 years ago when it was getting different directions. This kind of, I guess I'm kind of asking clarification for myself in terms of we can't plaster this up. We can't just stick a plaster in it and expect that, you know, or paper over the cracks. So this has to be, and I'm going to come back to education here. This has to be an educational thing where we teach our young people from a young age what is right and what's wrong. And I get quite eaten up about schools at the minute. And I think the schools they've really changed since COVID. I've had a run-in with my little girl's school about how they treat kids. And I think a lot of the things that they teach in schools these days are not relevant anymore. And I think when we're in we are growing as a diverse culture. You know, anybody who thinks differently is either a knuckle dragger or they've not got their eyes open. Surely, in terms of educating our young people, like I try to do with my kids, like I look at my lads, I've got 140 kids at club, I've got 17 in my team. Those 17 in my team, I'm immensely close to every one of them, and I treat them like they're my sons, and I try to teach them the best way forward, like I did with that little bit that I explained earlier.
Yeah.
Surely, when it's as bad as what it is, surely there should be something in the national curriculum now that educates from a young age about discrimination, about treating everybody with the same level of respect. You know, drumming that in from an early age, so it becomes the norm that those words. I'd love to say we'd eradicate it one day, but I think you're always going to get you idiots, aren't you?
See, when I get my pen out, I'm acting like a teacher now. This is what I used to do when I was a teacher. Wayne, you've got to remember, education is what you make it. Yeah. So if behind closed doors, you know, a family is talking about, I don't know why those people are on screen, you know, we're a white country. And again, don't excuse my words here, yeah? But we're a white country. I don't want to see Asians on my screen or this, I don't want my prime minister to be Asian. That's their internal learning.
Yeah.
Child then goes out through the door and now has this different opinion and different view on people that don't look like him, you know, or her. So we can do education as a powerful tool, but it's education in all different formats. You know, the educational system is not fit for purpose. It's not fit for purpose. Anyone that, you know, we're still, and we have to understand English history because this is where we are. Of course, we have to understand English history, but you have to be able to immobilize, because we are such a diverse nation now, immobilize other parts of history as well. Yeah. The sooner you do that, the better.
Yeah.
But then you'll have children going home and said, we learned about, I don't know, the Windrush generation, let's say.
Yeah.
And mum and dad going, what have you learned about that for? We don't know. That's not who we are. And then will be a negative towards the learning that they're getting in their schools. I deliver education in the academy system. And I'm really pleased in a sense. I'm not taking any credit for this, but players who are now established figures in your game, you know, we looked through some of the feedback the other day from years gone by. Little Ben Chilwell, little Declan Rice, do you know what I mean? Little Raheem, like they're all part of our feedback. And for me, That's why those players stand tall now. You know, and so we must have had something to do with it. But they're also growing up in multicultural teams, and actually are embracing their teammates. And that's the way you learn. So what you are creating in your own environments is on the right lines of helping people understand different ethnicities, different cultures. What we can't do sometimes, we can't influence everybody. As much as what we'd like to. I'd like to think that I can educate everybody in the world. And then a man or a woman goes back and says, "Oh, we just had education on that bloody Troy Townsend who's talking about racism again." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for them, dare I say it, and I don't want to use this, but I'm going to use it, but I'm only going to use it shortly, right? Because I'll absolutely go off on one, as I already have done today. Ian Botham was a hero of mine, an absolute cricketing legend, by the way. I loved his style. I loved his panache. I loved everything about Botham. And and of course, I love the fact that he's best mates with Viv Richards.
Yeah.
Ian Botham now says he didn't see any racism. There was no racism during my time. And I can knock on any of my friends' doors and whatever it may be. But the context behind it was racism did not happen. Now, I'm not being funny, Ian, but you were at Somerset with Joel Garner and Viv Richards. Are you telling me that there was no stories coming out when you used to travel with England and you had Devon Marshall on your team? Are you telling me that he didn't get some? Or were you being ignorant to the fact? Closed mind, closed heart, no, not hearing it, nothing to do with me. I am not having it. And people can say, well, no, I agree with Ian. And I still get people say, never seen it. I'll get people at clubs. So an incident happened. Let me tell you that, sorry, I am rambling, but you get me started on this. So remember Tottenham Chelsea when Rudiger stopped the game, when they stopped the game, Chelsea, a few years ago, and Rudiger said, "Oh, they're monkey chanting at me." I had to do some media that day. I remember it. It was Christmas. I was actually on leave. I had to do some media that day, and I said, if there's any Spurs fans, it's really disappointing. A couple of fans messaged me, "Troy, we know where it was from, yeah?" Friends of mine, avid Tottenham supporters. How can you say that? There's been no racism ever at White Hart Lane or the Tottenham Stadium. How can you go against your own supporters? Like, they were blaming me.
God.
And I'm like, hold on a minute. We had a drink the other night, but this is my work. I have to call it out wherever I see it. And when I'm getting intel from someone who's texting me saying, "Troy, it's seat number that, and it's that," guys always like it all the time. And they say, never witnessed it on our patch. And I've said Spurs there, but actually it could be any club.
Yeah.
Any club. Never witnessed it. Never seen it. Not where I sit anyway. Do you know what? Because your mind is not open to it. I will hear racism, I'm sorry, and you three might not hear a thing. And I will say, guys, listen, over there, that guy over there, I can see it. And you guys go, "Oh, actually, Troy, you're all right."
Right, yeah.
I can hear it. We have a unique tune to the abuse that we've received all of our lives. All of our lives. I was born in Hackney, East London. I couldn't be more Cockney not Cockney, but do you know what I mean? This is when people say, "Where are you from?" Hackney, East London. No, where are you really from? Hackney in East London. But no, where are you from? That is subtle racism. That is denial that a black man could be born in this country.
Yeah.
Sorry for popping off, Jen.
I think it's what I think. Speaking from the heart is exactly what we wanted. Obviously, it shows your frustration. It shows. I don't know. I think it gives a really in-depth look of where you're coming from. I think some of the stuff that you told us today, and how prominent it still is. And I never thought for a second that it wasn't. But I think I didn't also realize how much it's disguised now. Yeah. Whereas they're not. You're right. It's not. And I guess that's the reason why people then maybe become desensitized to it. Is to say, well, racism's gone now. We never hear anything of it. And it's not that it's gone. It's being covered up.
I agree with that. And anyone that says to me they don't hear it, once they sit down with me for 2.5 minutes, then they'll know that actually, oh God, what Troy said there and what he's experienced and what, family members have experienced or colleagues, or when he goes into an environment and, the 13-year-old says to him, "Yeah, I was racially abused when we were on tour and You know, the 9-year-old says, yeah, my own teammate racial. These are all factual. I'm not making none of this up. I have no right to make it up.
Yeah.
Or
I think that's definitely one of the most
underneath
important lessons from tonight's. Sorry, Troy. The fact that, you know, it's disguised. I think all three of us here would probably have been on the line of it's reducing. Maybe not Martin, but I know definitely me and Wayne. But this tonight was really, really highlighted the strength of it and the reason for this podcast to get it out there that it hasn't changed. It's being disguised.
But Wayne, can you also see that I don't take no pleasure in talking about it?
Oh, of course not. And we don't take any pleasure in
be
having
talking
to
about
do it.
Twiddly Dee and Twiddly Dum, you know, whoever they may be. Or I'd rather be talking about the action from, we haven't even spoken about anything to do with refereeing. I'd rather be talking about that. But people actually think, oh, here he goes again. He's talking about racism again, that guy. And blah, does he ever stop? And I can't stop. Because last Thursday, my day was planned, yeah? Going into central London, where I had to sit and work on this project. I was doing some shortlisting for these awards. My afternoon was then having a couple of meetings in the same place, yeah? Grab a bit of lunch after me. 10 o'clock in the morning, Troy, yeah, I've just been contacted by some players who said that their manager is racially abusing them.
Wow.
Your whole day goes. Your whole day. So everything I planned, you can't because you're getting messages, you're this, you're getting that, and you think to yourself, oh, so it wipes your day out.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because I'm not the kind of guy that would hear that and go, oh, that can wait. I'll leave that, you know, maybe they won't. No, you action it straight away. And I was still talking on the phone at 8 o'clock at night. Yeah. And I'll have to delay getting on my train because if I get on my train, I lose my signal and I can't talk to anybody.
Yeah, it's too important. And one of the things I was going to come onto there, Troy, when you said about the refereeing, which we'll tie it in a sec, was when you said earlier, and I was just listening to you. It's just always wonderful listening to you. Horrible subject, but it's just wonderful knowing that you will make a difference, even though you have made a difference already. Is that they stop the conversation, don't they? When you say what happens, where did that like get prosecuted? They stop the conversation. That's the reason they do it. So otherwise the conversation can go on and on and on, which is a tact that I always ensure happens. But in the refereeing front, look what we've had recently with regards to Sam Allison coming through the ranks. Now, Sam Allison started his football round here where I am, in the West Country. I remember when he first started off, I went to a place called Froome Town. Sam was watching, and Sam said to me, I said, all right, Sam, I've heard you doing well. Yeah, I do. I think it was a level 4 then. And he goes, yeah. What do you reckon, Matt? Do you reckon there's a chance of me getting up near the Premier League? I said, do you want me to be honest with you, Sam? No chance. Ask him. Ask Sam Allison.
And that was the truth at its time, Wayne.
At the time, absolutely.
Yeah.
I need to manage your expectations, mate. It ain't going to happen. I said, you know, it just ain't going to. That's one of the problems. And early on, the glass ceiling was there. That, you know, black man's graveyard. He was coming into that.
Yeah.
And then things changed, and people started to realize, well, actually, he is a talented. He is, not that it should matter if he was talented or not. Then he got people behind him who were really supporting him, making noises. Why isn't he getting a cup final? Why isn't he getting this? And it was just becoming too. It was becoming too loud for him to ignore. And then this weekend, don't we? We have Akil, on the Select Group Premier League.
Yeah.
First time we've had a full-time match official from the BAME community. For how many years? 15,
18, something like that. Yeah.
And not only this weekend, we had 2 because Sam was 4th man and Akil was on the line. Absolute groundbreaking. I haven't heard many big klaxons going off about that.
Yeah.
Wasn't one of the last ones Uriah
Rennie?
Right, yeah, Uriah Rennie. That was his name, wasn't it?
Uriah Rennie, 20 years, 15 years. I think it was 15, 18. I can't remember. I'll get the facts.
I wasn't sure if the last time with Uriah Rennie, I think it was about, I've got a feeling it was about 91, you know.
Is it that long?
You put the maths together on that.
It's really long.
My brain doesn't work this late at night.
But a referee, and I was listening, I was blessed enough to do games with Uriah. His name's Uri, but everyone knows him as Uriah.
Sorry.
And no, don't apologise, guys. And so like I always did with match officials, I do my backgrounds on them. What did you like, what you don't like? And
15 years.
15 years.
Time was 208, yeah.
And he said, and he had these little idiosyncrasies. He didn't like you to shake his hand before the game. So when you met in a hotel before a Premier League game, 4 hours before kickoff, you just woke up and I just walked up and went, I'm Martin. He went, all right. And just looked at me and never put my hands out. And all my instincts of sort of the person I am, I want to hug them and give them the handshake and have the upbeat. No, I didn't do it. I got told in his warm-up, don't overtake him in his warm-up.
Oh, wow.
So he's got it, which I get. And he's very domineering in regards to keeping control of the game. But other people would view that as, he's arrogant.
Yeah.
Because he's a man of colour. He's if that's the right term, Roy. Troy, I always get mixed up. And if I say the wrong term, please correct me.
Oh, that's fine.
It's arrogant. Well, if it was Kalina doing it, I was really confident. Yeah. And I've seen these little nuances in it. And I loved being with him. We got on really, really well. And he so I really, really worked my ass off doing everything right. And at Aston Villa, they didn't give you a meal afterwards. They brought sandwiches down. You got a tray of sandwiches each. Yeah. So he got his tray, I got my tray. And at the time, because I was getting looked to go on a full-time Premier League role, they had a lad called Paul Regia there, who was the main man for assistant referees on the Premier League. And when he goes there, you know they're looking at you. So I was really made up. He comes in, he goes, oh, Scouse, yeah, brilliant. You can see why we're looking at you. Bright future ahead. I said, oh, thanks very much. And you're right. And he said, put your hands out. Put his hand out. And he had a little Premier League badge in his hands. He'd give it to me. I said, oh, thanks very much. And there it was. I was relieved. I'd done everything I wanted to do. And I sat down on a bench. And I sat on his fucking sandwiches. Couldn't believe it. Typical Cassidy.
Did he check the Premier League badge back off you?
He just took his own place of sandwiches, which was mine. But what I was getting at was that, like, I realised really early on that he was viewed different because of the colour of his skin.
But
his
Mark,
confidence was
what you say there? Do you see what you say there about choice of language?
Yeah.
Yeah. So language is a massive thing. We talk about it with commentators as well, don't we? The way they describe black, brown footballers, and they don't deem them as intelligent. They, they use particular language when they make a mistake, or, the language is not parallel. It's not the same. And that's why one of the reasons why I think we lack in ex-black players going in boardrooms and ex-black players going into coaching, because they're never deemed as leaders. They're never deemed as, the kind of person that can be captain material. Yes, you have a few. You have your Patrick Vieiras and Vincent Kompany's. Look who's gone into management. Patrick Vieira and Vincent Kompany. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So there's times when and of course they should be spoken about that way, but it should be a level playing field in the way that the commentators describe players. I had an argument.
Look at the field I'm in. Sorry, Troy. The field I'm in, and what I'm trying to do, all the warrior of lost causes for referees and keeping that subject of referees in the face. And I'm not sure what the correct term is to use. But that's a lack of education for me. Why don't I know exactly?
Or that's a lack of education that's not being provided by the game. And I spoke about this to you and about referees having education. I spoke to you about this a long time ago.
Yeah.
Anyone that is, I call officials front facing. You're front facing. Anyone that is front facing needs their education topped up every single season, like you do on the rules, like you do on other aspects of the game. Top up the education. Why? Because at some stage it will come in. You don't know when. At some stage you'll have to act on an incident where you'll need to know the right language and terminology.
Absolutely.
You remember the PSG situation where the fourth official used the term black and just black, and PSG went mad and then came off the field of play.
Yes.
It's going to be situations like that. I had it in grassroots where a young Asian lad who was officiating, and I always feel that particularly in grassroots, when there's only one official, your job is trebly harder. And he didn't know how to deal with a situation at the time because the game was going on where a young player was being called the N-word by a Puerto Rican player. So my player, who's the best player on the field of play, as we finish and we've won 5-1, I'm saying, why are you not smiling? Why are you not happy? You've done so well today. He's constantly been calling me the N-word. So I pulled the referee and we had a conversation. And he said, I didn't know what the right thing was to do. So I don't blame him as a young official. I'm saying, who's looking after you? Yeah. Why have you not had the education? What do you know what I mean? And that's when I started speaking to Aaron Williams, who you will all know. And we used to work with us and we started speaking in this space. And I said to Aaron, as much as the players need education, so do the officials. Yeah. It can only benefit them. So, Mark, you shouldn't say to me, what's the right terminology now?
Exactly,
Although
exactly. Embarrassed.
terminology changes by the week, by the way.
But
Do you know
yeah,
what I mean?
Do
Like,
you know,
but,
you know where I could back you up on that is obviously I ref as well, and every year you have to renew your refereeing badge subscription, whatever it may be. But there's never any refresher training offer with that. It's just 20 quid, Wayne. I can't remember.
Yeah, 20 quid.
20
that's
quid.
it.
Take you 20 quid.
No
and
exam, no
you just
test,
rue
no
it.
nothing.
why is there not why is there not that in place? You know, like we're going to refresh you, we're going to upskill you, we're going to make sure that you remain relevant. And by the way, you know, at all levels of the game now, the playing field is diverse.
Yeah.
It's diverse to the point where some of them, English is not going to be their first language as well.
Do you know, I just want to touch on what you said about all these people that were like potentially kind of missing out. I think the biggest travesty is the kids themselves when they start at a grassroots level. Maybe that leads up to adults, and some adults maybe quit the game because of it. This also falls into refereeing, where you run about obviously Uriah Rennie. How many are we missing out on? Forget, you know, the people themselves are missing out on something that could be really, really good, really beneficial for them in terms of some might make it as a professional into a career, as a referee, as a footballer. But how many? You look at it, and there's so many talented individuals out there, regardless of colour. And how many of these talented individuals of colour are we missing out on? We could be missing out on great players, great officials, because of some dickhead that stands on a sideline who gives them some abuse one day that absolutely terrorizes them in their head that they're being abused for something they can't help.
So
and we potentially, they lose a career. They might even lose a life over it. You know, people might, like we say, commit suicide because of it.
Two things.
Sorry,
I'm
go on.
so glad that language is so free on this pod. It makes me feel at ease. I've even forgotten, was it? Two things. I've had the absolute privilege, and Martin has mentioned it twice, of hosting the BAMREF conferences. One in Villa, one at Aston Villa, last one at Wembley only last month. The one at Villa, I didn't know what to expect. Because I'm thinking, there's no diverse referees, so what are we going to do, you know? Martin, you was there, wasn't you?
I was there, mate. Yeah, I was there, yeah.
I was in that room, and by the time they said, Troy, we're ready to go, I looked at a room of 100 people, and I went, wow. I said, where are all these black and brown referees coming from?
And you probably had 100 apologies for people who couldn't make it.
Exactly. And I was like, wow. At Wembley, we asked them to all put their hand up, who was at the Villa conference the year before. 7. So all of a sudden now there's all these diverse officials in the Midlands, all these diverse officials in London. The two events, I thought they were amazing days. That one at Villa, Martin, unrivaled for me. I was like, wow, like this is a movement. This is something where football cannot deny now that it has referees from diverse. It can't deny it no more.
No.
This one in July, I mean, I tasked them with the fact that if you're going to have an event at Wembley, you need to get Howard Webb. You need to get Howard Webb. And he turned up, he smashed it out the park because he doesn't read from a script. He reads from what's up there. Obviously, he has some notes, but he smashed it out the park. And I looked at him differently because I didn't think he could verse in this. You know, I'm thinking, but I looked at him differently and thought, he's a spot on. Doesn't need 2 pages of paperwork to confirm what he's saying. He looks at his notes. He walks all around the stage. The stage isn't that big. I actually thought he was going to fall off at one stage. I was like, oh, Howard, watch yourself. But he was in control. He was in control, spoke about his wife and, you know, difficulties that she had. So he knows it from all these different angles. And he had the audience purring. And I can't say that about everybody. He had the audience purring. And I thought to myself, listen, we had a private, he did an interview with Darren Lewis and we had a private hour with him. If he wasn't invested, and by the way, his son was waiting for him to drive him to somewhere I don't even know. I said, where's your son? He went, he's downstairs in the car. I said, get the boy some sandwiches or something. You're nearly 2 hours late. But if he wasn't invested in the conversation, he wouldn't stick around. He'd make excuses, as many people do. I really got to go. I can give you 5 minutes of my time. No, he was like, yeah, where we going? I was like, yeah, in the room there. Darren's waiting for you. Yeah, come on, let's go. Sat, done his interview, stayed for another 45 minutes, engaged with us in this room, and actually said, take my number, make sure, you know, we stay in touch and whatever else. It was supposed to be our anniversary event on Tuesday, but a big call came up and he had to pull out, but he apologized, you know, and things like that fill my heart with change is coming.
Yeah.
We always have to have hope, don't we? If we don't have hope, we've got nothing to play with. And the reason I'm still here with some grey hairs, with, you know, not shaving my beard, and you might not see it here, but there's some grey in there as well, like I said. And the fact
I need to take you to task there, mate. Terminology.
What?
As a
What did I
man who lots of magnolia hair. Not the hint of
Magnolia, right? Okay, but the game. There's times when this game has worn me to the point where I think to myself, Troy, get out of here, get out of here. It's not the same as what it was before. You're not being heard. You're not being listened to. And then I come on a platform like this, and I know this is going to go to many people that may not have heard what I'm saying today. Do you know what I mean? So there's your influence. We never know who we're influencing. We never know who we're telling a new story to. We never know. So I'm still here. I'm still standing. I'm still up straight. I have my moments, but actually, we have to have hope.
You've got to keep fighting for change, because if you don't, and everybody gives up, then it just gets worse.
And we're just giving into the hands of, aren't we?
Yeah. I truly believe, and I think that it takes special people to take on big challenges that, you know, you potentially might not see the end of it, but if it's like a chain kind of thing, I look at my club and I think, well, when I'm not here no longer, I still want it to exist and somebody to still pass on that message. And I guess you're kind of in a chain of when you look back on this in 100 years, who started off? Who did this? Who told me that? You know, they can look to you for that and think, well, we learned a lot from the doors that Troy kicked down. Yeah. And we haven't had to go and kick them doors down. We've kicked new doors down. You know, so we're getting further through that building until we get to the top, until, you know, we kind of get to a point where, you know, I think it's acceptable to say that you're never going to eradicate every dickhead and idiot from life. But if we can minimize it to the lowest possible numbers, then all of a sudden everybody's, or almost everybody's, life becomes a lot more manageable and enjoyable. And we get out of it what we put into it. And I think a lot of these kids, when they start off and they put a lot into it, and they might always not maximize it because of idiots who discriminate and who destroy the journey, and the journey stops far too prematurely than what it should have done. And what are they missing out on? And what are we missing? We all love football. You know, we all love. I'm a massive Liverpool fan. I watched it yesterday. I missed it. It was back. I was engaged. I was in it. You know what? I love all. John Barnes is my favorite ever player. If John Barnes had given up, I'd have never got to enjoy John Barnes. Yeah. You know, and he's such a voice now. He's such a massive, positive voice for change.
This is the thing, and I've got to be honest, this pisses me off no end. When people say football can't influence in this space.
Yeah.
It's a societal problem. It's right, there you go, Wayne. You know, we can influence in all, football influences all other areas.
Yeah.
You can see it, it's visible.
Yeah.
But when we talk about discriminate, football can't influence, it's a societal problem. Football has its own influence. We have 60,000, 70,000, 80,000 down to, you know, the person and their dog. Of course it can influence. It has a massive influence because it's the beautiful game, the global game, the game that we can't wait to see it come back. I was even watching pre-season friendlies. I don't even watch pre-season friendlies. I'm watching pre-season friendlies, getting ready for the big day. Of course it can influence. Players take the knee. Children will take the knee. Players don't take the knee. Children say, oh, they've stopped doing that now. We're not going to do it. Do you know what I mean? Players argue, as you well know, with referees. Children, we're arguing with the referee because that's what my heroes do. So don't tell me that football doesn't have a massive influence on everything, on everybody. Yeah. You know, we've got to start believing in it.
Children see and children do.
Of course they do.
There's a thing, I'll put it up on our website, and there's anything you want us to have, I'd like to have a page if I can, Troy. If you can do a narrative or put you somewhere, a page about the right terminology, about these things, put it on our website, apparently there, share the link everywhere you can.
Brilliant.
I'll do that, absolutely no problems at all. But there's a thing on the website, which might be a good way to end this, because it's gone on a lot longer. We're on an hour and a half here, Troy, so thank you so much. Is that there's a thing called about starfish, and there's a beach full of starfish. Beach full of them, millions of them. And a lad is walking along, and he gets a starfish, and he throws it in the sea. And he walks a little bit further, and he picks up a starfish, and he throws it in the sea. And there's a bloke sitting down doing nothing, just watching the sunset. And he calls him up and says, what did you do that for? You know, there's millions of starfish left. You're never going to make a difference. And he said, but it made a difference to them too.
Yeah.
All right.
That's the journey we're on.
Yeah.
The more of us that throw those starfishes back in the sea, the more of us that don't sit there and just ask what you're doing it for, the quicker we'll change the game.
Look, for me, this has been an absolutely massive podcast. And you mentioned earlier on that, you wanted to talk about the football, this, that, and the other. So very, very quickly, cats or dogs?
Oh, give me a. Do you know what?
Cats or dogs?
I think you lot have been looking into some of my social media history. I've been looking at all these cat videos for the last 6 months. I'm sure I want to either adopt or get a kitten. So I'm watching all these videos and I'm like, shall I? Well, then I started looking at dog ones the other day and I'm like, shall I get a dog instead? I haven't got one. I've got probably cats,
dogs are the kids that never grow up, mate. You can't send them out to play. You have to look after them and walk them all the time. That they're great. I've got 2, but I'm done. I'm never having any more. So that might help you there. Cats, you can send them out for the night. Go and do the thing.
Yeah,
but cats aren't loyal. Cats aren't loyal. They'll go anywhere they want. Dogs are loyal. Dogs are loyal.
Favorite football ground?
He's going to say Spurs.
One I've actually visited, or
no, you could even include one that you'd love to. I know you'd want to come to Donny.
I've been Donny. I've been Donny twice.
Bellevue.
Oh, nice.
What my favorite? I suppose
anywhere your son's playing.
Yeah, that would be my favourite. Yeah.
Can I ask you about? I would. I'm not just saying this because you're on.
New camp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a huge fan of your boy.
Oh, thank you.
I always wanted him when he burst onto the scene and he had that really good spell when he hit Spurs. Yeah. And I always thought, why don't Liverpool put a punt in for him? I'd love to see it at Liverpool. And then he was on that bit of a crest of a wave when he hit the England team and he was smashing it.
Yeah.
And he was all on. He was one of the players that I spoke about. He was spoke about on media about being an absolute shoo-in for Roy Hodgson's squad for 2014 in Brazil. And he got injured, didn't he?
He done his hamstring.
Oh, do you know, I was devastated. And I can remember seeing him.
You were devastated,
yeah, well, I know.
I was.
Because I thought he was one of them players that you looked at. And I didn't think, from his position where he played, I didn't think we had anybody like him.
Boy,
because it only took Andros one touch, inside bang, and his shots were like a rocket. And when he got injured, I were absolutely, and I don't get me wrong, that World Cup was an absolute shambles for us, but we worked to know that before. And I loved him for England. And I mean, obviously, I've watched his career, and even when he went to Everton 2 years ago, I know Matt is on a joke. But do you know, I was even thinking then, why have we not took him on? Do you know, he could come on, take Salah off for 15, 20 minutes, add something different.
I don't think you can take Salah off for 15, 20. Did you see the update he had yesterday?
I know. I listen to him on talk. Every time he's on TalkSport, I listen because he's like you. He's very engaging. Says it out here straight to the point. And I just want to say, I've always been a huge fan of your boy. And he's not got a club sorted yet, has he?
Not at the moment, no. I wish you didn't take me back to 2013, 2014. It was unbelievable. You know, watching him put on an England shirt and play for his country for the first time, you know, in a World Cup qualifier. I mean, I was shitting myself about don't make no mistakes, don't this, don't that. And he took to it like a duck to water.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
He then played the Poland game. And then, do you remember they had 2 friendlies in November and he played against Germany? And Germany had marked him out to be the threat, you know, and I'm thinking, that's my boy they're talking about.
Yeah.
But actually, he got a hamstring injury a month later. Chops a half a yard off you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And Stoke City away, of all places. Can you imagine that? And Greg Peters comes in and absolutely ruins his ankle.
Has he had to have that rebuilt then, as his ankle?
Oh, he done the op. And I'm telling you now, they didn't do the op properly.
Really?
They didn't do the op properly. I you know your own children.
Yeah.
Say you know your own. I'm watching him have the op, done all his physiotherapy, come back, warming up on the touchline, and I'm saying he's not. That's not right. He's not right.
Not running right.
Running in the way that he was, you know. So actually, he lost. You know, you have those injuries and whatever, but he lost yardage. So that explosive pace, was lost. You know, and he had to adapt his game quite a bit. But
yeah. I know you'd have been devastated, obviously, being his dad, but honestly, when we were on the cusp of that World Cup, and he was one of the players that I always spoke about to my mates, and I was like, "This is the kid. This is the kid. There's something about him because he doesn't need to be in game loads. He just needs that one chance."
Need the chance, yeah.
And I've always watched his career, and like I said, when he went, I was thinking, I'd loved Liverpool to have signed him.
Yeah.
Obviously, he went to the wrong side of
Well, he went to the wrong side, yeah.
Yeah, but
well, it was the right side to start with. He started like a house on fire.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, Benitez. Were it Benitez, weren't it?
Yeah, under Benitez. Yeah, I mean, he got injured in March 2022, and in April 2022, he was still the top goal scorer and top assist.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. And it was only Richarlison that took over him in the last couple of games.
Honestly, mate, he is some player. I'm a massive, huge fan of him, and I wanted to tell you that when you come on, because it weren't somebody that I'd
fair play.
Yeah, no, I do want it. It's just one of them players. You just when you come on and I'm a bit of a, as Wayne will tell you, I'm a massive football geek. I love it. I live it. I breathe it.
Brilliant.
And when I see players, there's just something different about certain players, and you look at them, and he was definitely one. And obviously, I didn't know how severe his injury was, but obviously that would make sense as to why maybe he never quite climbed the heights as what he did before. But what a shame! Just imagine if that injury never happened, he might have still been settled now.
Think about it all the time, Wayne. I think about it all the time.
Sorry, I'm not meaning that in a
no.
More salt for that wound.
I wasn't. I was doing it from a position of love, really, to say, absolutely.
I appreciate that.
I loved watching him, and I hated it when we came up against him because I was like,
listen, he's still the best player on the field every time he plays, in my eyes. So I'm all right with that. You know what I mean? But
Troy, do you know when you're watching? I've watched myself on telly when I've been on the line or whatever, and then I've watched my brothers play, and we all run the same. Kind of weird. We all run the same. Does he run like you when you see him running?
I haven't run since I was about 30, right? So I can't even. I've got nothing to compare it with.
You must have seen yourself run.
I was quick when I was younger. But that those young years don't stay for too long, didn't they?
The only guys I've seen Wayne's son run, and he don't run like that.
The only thing that runs on me is my nose, I tell you.
I got to about 23, and then I don't know. I was like looking at myself, saying, "Why are you not running as fast as what you used to?" So my deterioration started really early. But no, you're right. But his elder brother runs totally different, because he's one of those that runs with his head up, and I'm saying, what are you doing up there? What are you seeing up there? Are you tracking the clouds or something? They were both really, really quick when they were younger, and like I said, it was only that injury that started to knock Andros's, because they did the operation wrong.
Is he keen to stay on? Obviously, I don't really tell me any secrets, but is he keen to stay on, or is it? Listen, he's good in media, isn't it? I always watch him and think there's a massive career in media for him.
Well, he doesn't want to finish his career,
Yeah. Oh, no, I don't mean yet. I mean like
injury. Yeah. His ACL injury is now 18 months ago. He started his first game, so he's been at Burnley for a month, like doing all his pre-season.
Yeah,
so
I read that.
He's ready to go. Burnley renegade on a deal.
Yeah.
So he's now back on the look again. But he loves the media, so he doesn't want to finish on his last game, March the 23rd, 2022. I mean, that
32 now, isn't it? 32
hasn't been etched in my memory.
No, I thought that when he said it.
But his knee injury against Palace of all places, going back home, and in an FA Cup tie, he wouldn't want to finish on that, because that's not how he wants to be remembered. That long period of time out, and then ultimately it's cost him the last bit of his career. But what I'm pleased about is that when they talk about players, I say, they never think about their future. Well, he's thinking about his future, because he's carved out a media career, and he's also doing his coaching badges. So I like him in the media.
He's opening double doors.
Yeah, but I'm not sure I'd want him in the coaching environment. You
you said you came to Donny twice. Was one of them when he played for Palace against Donny in FA Cup? I went to that game.
I was on the pitch. You might have seen. I was on the pitch for the BBC. Yeah.
Really?
I was right in front of the Donny fans as well, and they started to give me a little bit of stick, and I'm like, hold on a minute, I'm only here to do a bit of. You know what I mean? And the other time was when he was at loan at Ipswich. It was a Friday night game.
Ah, right.
Yeah.
Did you ever? I suppose you wouldn't have played when they had the old stadium up, would it?
No,
It'd always been the new one. How shit is the Keepmoat, by the way? Is it the most soulless pile of shit you've ever been to in your life? Maybe we shouldn't ask people what the best grounds have been to. Maybe the better conversation is what is the shittest ground you've ever been to? And I bet you Doncaster Rovers will win something for once.
I'll tell you now.
Will be it.
In a matter of fact, Palace packed that away end to the point that when I came back from doing the interview, someone had nicked my seat. Squeezed in, and there was no room, and my daughter's sitting there going, I couldn't stop them, and I'm like, but they made noise for the whole ground. So if you take
Absolutely.
anything, Crystal Palace fans made the noise for the whole stadium that night.
I'm a massive red. I've been and watched Liverpool all over, but I used to go and watch Rovers when I was younger because obviously I couldn't get tickets to Liverpool all the time. But I've stopped going now because it's torture. Not only is the football shit, the atmosphere is horrendous. Whereas if they'd have been playing at Bellevue, right, the football might have been shit, but the atmosphere was mega.
Okay.
I'd have been there every Saturday, no problem.
Okay.
No problem. I don't know what you come in your face for because I only speak the truth, Martin. Nothing but the truth. That's all you're going to get from me.
Bloody new grounds, eh?
Well, it is. It's awful. So that's my new thing for the pod. Not what's the best ground you've been to, because they all know they're going to say Anfield anyway. So we'll just ask them what the shittest is. That's what we'll ask.
I'm liking shittest ground. I think that's a good one for us.
What is the shittest ground you? I'll tell you.
Asking people who's the best player.
I'll give you another example. Burnley. Wow, what an experience! But the atmosphere was phenomenal. Give me that any day of the week over one of these polished, shiny turds that they have around the place.
I do like the old grounds, and that's why I always like Selhurst Park, because the atmosphere the Palace fans created there was second to none.
Goodison Park's awesome.
Just going to say
well, Goodison is like,
it's gone
15
now.
minutes, it's absolutely exceptional. Yeah. The next 75 minutes, oh shit!
I know, but as a Liverpool fan, you can enjoy that when they're starting to turn on themselves.
Listen, I'll tell you this for nothing. The Merseyside derby, I think it was October, November that they played them when Andros was there in the first year. I don't think my body has chilled more than 5 minutes before kickoff. The anticipation, the players coming out.
Yeah.
Honestly, when they went out, Liverpool I was chilled. It was so much chill. And then Salah scored within the first 6 minutes.
See, for me, it's St James's.
Again, another one I've experienced.
Down from the back, what a ground. And Sandal beat.
Who?
Our ground.
What is the shittest?
No, Sandal beat is the best. It's beautiful turf.
Do you know what, Troy? My club, our ground is literally next to the Doncaster Racecourse.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, so we're literally there's like a little slither of the road. It's not even a main road or anything. Leads to the woods, and it's Donny Race. We can literally kick a ball from our field onto the racecourse. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, listen, I remember that.
Listen, we've been on nearly 2 hours, Troy.
Yeah. I know, but this is definitely our best pod yet.
This is the best part of the pod. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
All that crap that we were talking about before.
It's like, and I'm going to let you into a secret, right? Mrs. was in hospital today.
Oh, sorry.
I had an appendix last week. Got a few complications. Got taken in this morning.
Pull your mic closer.
I came away. I come home.
Mike, pull your mic. Martin, you might pull your mic a bit close to you.
I'm sorry, mate. So I was down there with
what's the name at the end, Wayne?
I said I've got it.
Honestly, it's like teaching a granddad new tricks, mate. You just keep forgetting.
New tricks. I resemble that remark. and she said, "Look, we're waiting for the CAT scan. Go and do the pod. Go and sort the dogs out.
Oh,
and then come on back." So I said, "Yeah, I didn't want to miss the pod and let everyone down." And anyway, about 20 minutes ago, I'm in my dining room. I've got a window here that looks over the garden. She appears at my bleeding window.
Really?
And if you noticed earlier, I turned the camera off.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck are you doing here? She said, I knew you're on the pod, so I got our youngest to pick us up.
Oh, bless her.
That's not like my missus. My missus would be like, you better cancel that and make sure you come up there. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah. But so no chance.
My missus just texted me and said, can I start over in this fucking bedroom yet or what?
So it looks like she's fine. So
quality.
Good news, mate.
Just thank you so much for coming on.
Pleasure.
Absolute pleasure. You never let me down. You give us loads of time, loads of honesty, loads of love, and it's just remember that whatever you want us to do, if there's anything we can do, pushing out on social media.
Troy, please come back on. Please come back on, mate. Please come back on.
Absolutely.
I'm going to throw my into ring as well again here because I'm brand new in this new career that I'm trying to forge out.
Yeah.
So if ever you want any video stuff doing for free, give me a shout. Seriously, I can travel. I can come and do stuff. I can edit stuff. I'm setting up my own productions company in a minute. So if you need anything like that,
can we go back to last Tuesday then? I needed you last Tuesday.
I'll tell you from a non-arse kissing point as well. He's actually really fucking good at it.
Is he?
I'm
Yeah.
trying.
Right. Okay. You're on, Wayne. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll share details and contacts anyway through here. So no, absolutely. Listen, just a pleasure, and I just love it because I can just be myself.
Yeah, that's what we want. That's
Yeah.
exactly what we want, mate. You know, we're not here to catch you out. We're here to help you out, and you help us out, and
Absolutely.
share some good stuff. And I honestly, I've been I was looking forward to it anyway because I've obviously heard you on other stuff.
Yeah.
And Martin obviously has bigged you up a lot, and I was like, well, it's going
He has to. I've got a gun to his back.
So I think it's been immense. And like you say, if we can touch new areas and new channels and get people to listen to this,
yeah,
and understand the stuff that maybe, like you put really earlier about the stuff being disguised,
yeah,
and it's still there. And if we can chip away at stuff for you and keep
Amazing.
highlighting stuff for you on this pod, if there's anything in specific you want us to put out there, want us to talk about, we'll do it.
Amazing.
Absolutely love to do it, and it's something that I'm really passionate about. I can't remember, like I said, half of my I've got the most diverse club in Doncaster without a shadow of a doubt. My team is 50% made up of, is it BAME? Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
I was going to say, I question that. I don't say BAME anymore.
Oh, is it not?
That's because football uses it as a way of trying to increase its number of Black and Asian and minority ethnic. So if it collates it all together, it looks good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I want to know about the Black experience. I want to know about.
Yeah, I've never said BAME until you said it tonight. I've always said, but I don't even. Is ethnic minorities a correct term these days?
Do you know what?
I don't like labeling anything, to be honest with you. I just want to show you the picture of my boys and say, look, that's my team.
Yeah.
It's a team.
If you want to talk about Black players, you say Black.
Black, yeah.
If you want to talk about Asian players, you say Asian.
Yeah.
Because if I want information on the Asian community that are saying that they're being denied opportunities, I don't want them to be collated as Black or minority ethnic. I want to know about the Asian community.
Yeah.
And I actually don't know who ethnic minority is. Who are we?
No, I don't.
About?
No,
I don't.
I actually love that comment.
Yeah. Who are we talking about? So, or they've changed it a little bit. I can't remember the phrase they use now, but every change makes it more complicated to understand who they're talking about.
Yeah.
So I even challenged, and Martin said it, I even challenged BAMREF to actually, can you say something that's a little bit, I don't like the acronym. That's a personal choice. And I know football has squeezed out BAME now over the last couple of years, because since everyone started to use it, because the newspaper said, it helps with our word count. So now I'm a word count.
Oh, really?
You know what I mean? It helped. Yeah, it gives us more space to write something. All right, so now I'm a word count. They don't understand when they say these things, the impact of what they say. So I always say, look, if I'm talking about Black, Asian, I'm talking about Black. I can use Mediterranean. I can use Greek, Portuguese. And no one should be offended by you using the term Black, unless you're obviously saying some choice words after it. Then it becomes a problem. But no one should be offended by that. No one.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Unreal.
Right. Guys, thank you. Now my 2-hour toilet break is coming as well. So.
That's what I'm impressed with the most. These those problems.
You know what it's like once you get over a certain age, Martin. It's hard to put it all in. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, I'm all good. Listen, so grateful for having me on. And
no, thank you, mate.
Those words, guys.
Hey, send good luck to your son as well, mate. I hope he gets something sorted. It'd be interesting to see his next move.
Fantastic. I will do one.
It'd be brilliant,
definitely. That. Yeah, definitely.
Hey, maybe you could get on with him next time. I could have a proper.
He doesn't like doing. As much as he does the media, he doesn't want to be with his old man.
Oh,
really? Yeah, it's like, you do that shit. I'm younger than you. So, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, very true. I know that.
Very true.
Well, listen, thank you again. Thank you for just allowing us to think. Really, that's what does it. Allowed us to act and give us the pleasure of your company. And like I said on LinkedIn, you're such a warm human being that I have a pleasure to think that as a mate. So
super educational, mate. Without even feeling like a lesson.
Yeah,
that's the best way. It's just been amazing, mate, to hear your stories. Really, that's really good. Amazing. Really insightful.
Episode 11 of the Ref Pod.
Yeah. So that's it.
When's it coming out? When will it be out?
Yeah, wrap us up then, Wayne.
When will it be out? It will be out. Wednesday. So.
Is it? Oh, that's quick. Okay.
Yeah. Mine works more like a dog, mate. So
On
yeah,
what formats, Wayne?
on what formats? Yeah, so yeah, we'll wrap. Should I wrap it up? Let's wrap it up. That's been the 11th installment of the Ref Pod. We are flying through them. I didn't even get a chance to absolutely have a go at Martin for his agreeing that Liverpool shouldn't have had a penalty yesterday when I thought they should. But anyway, we'll leave that. We'll leave that to another week. I mean, it's been the longest pod yet. It's been by far my favourite. We are the Ref Pod. Catch us on Spotify, Apple Music. We're on YouTube now. Lots of people want to look at us. I keep saying it. I can't believe people like to look at us, but they do. YouTube, you just search it anywhere. It's all one word, at the Ref Pod. It's on Instagram. It's on Twitter. It's on Facebook. It's just about everywhere you can get it. I've been Wayne Riles. I've been joined by Mr. Cassidy, Mr. Baker, and the legend that is Troy Townsend. Thank you very much, and I will see you all next week. Or we will see you all next week. Bye.